Hello students, welcome to Recitals in-Depth by Vajiram Ravi. In this video, we will be discussing on environment and geography for the month of May 2024. The discussion will be covering the major theme areas of environmental governance, climate and weather phenomena, climate mitigation and geoengineering, biodiversity and its conservation, and resource use. Hello students, in this video, we will be discussing about geography and environment for the month of May 2024, and I would suggest you to have the magazine, Recitals magazine with you. So the environment and geography will flow from 91 to 99 and we will go according to the index in the magazine. The first one is about the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting. Ministry of Earth Sciences through its National Center for Polar and Oceanic Research held the meeting. So two things again for the preliminary point of view. National Center for Polar and Oceanic Research is located in Kochi. One, it's under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. The meeting, there is also a 26th meeting of CEP was held, Committee for Environmental Protection. So to go on the background towards this, we'll move on to Antarctic. The Antarctic has been in news in the recent times for few reasons. One, where Iran also claimed the Antarctic region. So that has been one of the news which happened earlier. One. Second, about the meeting that was conducted by the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Antarctic Treaty, during the year of 1957 to 58, right? The year is being recognized as International Geophysical Year, and 12 countries, scientists were doing research in Antarctica. These 12 countries came together in 1959 and signed a treaty called Antarctic Treaty, which came in force in 1961. See, two things here. One, signing is different, coming into force is different. Signing as in the countries, as in parties to the particular convention or treaty or a protocol, they will come, they will agree to the terms, sign it. But they have to go back to their own country, pass a resolution or any legislative process in the highest legislative making body. For example, in India, we pass a resolution in Parliament to agree to the terms of the treaty. So then it means we are ratified. Signing is different, ratification is different. Each treaty or international convention or protocol will say a percentage of population or percentage of countries or number of countries has to sign and ratify. Once this happens, the treaty will come into force, right? So we always see signing would have taken in different times and ratification would have taken in different times. Coming into force would have taken in different times. One, it was signed in 1959, came into force in 1961. The 12 original signatories were easy to remember, it's not hard. Just look into the countries which are much closer towards Antarctica. So you will be able to see countries of Argentina and Chile from South American continent, South Africa from African continent, Australia and New Zealand, right? So we do have 5 countries covered out of the 12. The rest were most prominent countries in 1959 time period. So it will be United States of America. It's going to be Soviet Union, Russia. We'll have United Kingdom. So 5 plus 3, 8 have been done. Other 4, Japan, right? The most faraway countries or non-guessable countries will include Belgium, France and Norway. So all you have to memorize is only 3 countries, France, Belgium and Norway. 5 closer towards Antarctica. Then you do have Soviet Union, UK, United States of America and Japan. 4 most important countries at the time and today. The 3 countries you will have to memorize is Belgium, France and Norway, right? So these are the 12 signatories, and we do have 2 types of parties. What do you mean by party? In any international convention or a treaty or a protocol, party is a representative. I'm a representative. The party can be a country. The party can be based upon an international treaty. Most of the time periods, party will be countries. Sometimes parties are also much more inclusive. It can be an NGO, it can be an organization, it can be a business enterprise. Here in the case, again, it goes to country, right? So there are 2 types of parties. One is consultative party, another one is non-consultative party. If I have to explain much more, one is consultative, another one is non-consultative. Consultative parties have the voting right and decision making which will not be available in non-consultative parties. Today we do have 29 consultative parties and 27 non-consultative parties, right? So before we go into India and what has been held, what is Antarctic Treaty? See, Antarctic Treaty has always been considered the land of Antarctica cannot be claimed by any particular country. So they always use the word no man's land, or no country can take a claim over the regions. So once you say that no country can take a claim over the regions, this becomes without any specific country's territory, and it cannot be used for military use. It can be used for only peaceful and scientific research, right? So it cannot be used for military use, it cannot be used for economic purposes, exploitative purposes. So we do use it for peaceful research, scientific research, tourism. In the recent times it has been done. So what has not been put? No territorial claims, it's a nuclear free zone, no military use, and then the treaty is applicable to the land, not to the sea. It's more important from the preliminary point of view. Antarctic Treaty is applicable only to the land of Antarctica, not to the sea. So if you became a party to the treaty, you can have your own research stations there. National laws are applicable to the citizen, not to the areas. So all the countries or all the parties has to ensure the provisions of the Antarctic Treaty. Moving further. So we do have, this has been done, Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting, also called as Antarctic Parliament. The Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting is from 1961, since it came into force, to 1994, met every 2 years. From 1994, it has been held annually, and ATCM is done by a consultative party, hosted by a consultative party, not by non-consultative parties. This year, it was hosted by India. So India is a consultative party who has the decision making and right of the vote. So it has been, as I said earlier, it was done once in 2 years. Now it is done annually. So to have a easy understanding, this is like conference of parties to UNFCCC, whereas this is a consultative meeting. The Antarctic Parliament is held every year since 1994. Convened annually, these meetings act as a forum for Antarctic Treaty, consultative parties and other stakeholders. India conducted the meeting for the year, right? Second thing, it's also been done with respect to CEP, as we heard earlier, right? CEP was established according to the Protocol on Environmental Protection to Antarctic Treaty. That protocol is also called as Madrid Protocol, one of the most important protocol in terms of environment conservation in Antarctica, right? CEP advises on environmental protection and conservation in Antarctica. That's what we emphasized, right? Moving on to the second part with respect to ATS, Antarctic Treaty System, right? It was established in 2004 and it acts as an administrative division for Antarctic Treaty System and coordinates ATCM and CEP. We found the explanations before. It monitors compliance. In the earlier slides, we discussed that a party becoming a member to Antarctic Treaty, that particular country or the party has to fulfill all the regulations of the particular treaty. ATS will monitor whether the compliance has been done or is there any issues with respect to it. India is a consultative party to Antarctic Treaty since 1983, and being a consultative party, we also have presence in Antarctica. The first Antarctic research station was Dakshin Gangotri. Dakshin meaning south, Gangotri is a glacier. So it's an easy name to remember, southern part, southern side and glacier. So Antarctica is a southern glacier, which was established in 1983, number one. And after that, we established two more research stations. One is Maitri, friendship, Bharati. Maitri was established in 89 and Bharati was established in 2012. Dakshin Gangotri, due to the snow and its avalanche, this has not been in use today, right? We do have two operating research stations, which is Maitri and Dakshin Gangotri. The permanent research station facilitates scientific advancements in Antarctica, and India enacted the Antarctic Act in 2022, very recently, as making and reaffirming commitment to the Antarctic Treaty to fulfill the provisions of the treaty. We also brought in an act. This can be written in terms of international relations or India's role in environmental conservations or India's role with respect to the global presence. Significance of hosting the ATCM 46. One, we are upholding the principles of Antarctic Treaty. To uphold the principles, 2 years before we also bought an Antarctic Act, which will be contribution to sustainable management of Antarctica. We already spoke about Madrid Protocol. We also established that we have been a consistent contributor towards sustainable management. Global stakeholder. India is becoming a big brother in terms of environment conservation, climate change adaptation and mitigation, and also resource utilizations. It again reaffirms the fact that our responsibility is in the globe is been increasing, especially with respect to environment conservation and other areas. What are the major challenges? One is Ukraine-Russian conflict. It's been considered as a major challenge. One, Russia's increased survey of oil and gas reserves in the Antarctic regions. Canada and Belarus has been seeking the consultative status, which has not been proceeded further. So these are the major challenges for the host for the year. Moving on to the second topic, which is base flow in the rivers. So when we move the slides, the red color heading will indicate the next topic has been arising with respect to it, right? So every topic changes, your slide will have the red words only for the new topic, right? That's for your easy understanding. Base flow in the rivers. See, certain rivers, especially the rivers of southern part of India are below the Vindhyas and Satpuras. We do have the rivers, and a study was conducted to understand the flood that has been taking place with respect to the regions, and there is a huge amount of river induced floods, especially in the city areas, especially during the times of monsoon time periods where heavy rainfall is there. So study was conducted in Narmada, Tapi, Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri to understand floods, base flow and heavy rainfall time periods, the impacts. So what we found is like there is something called base flow in general terms, which indicates the water that is coming from the base, originating from the groundwater and seeps into stream bed gradually. It's very simple. The groundwater, see, there are multiple sources of water for a river. One is a glacier. When the glacier melts, water has been added. So we call it as surface water. Second is precipitation. The precipitation again is a surface flow to the water. Number two is underground water providing source to the river, right? The underground water can be of two kinds that can come. One, we can divide it as groundwater. Another one, within the groundwater, we can specify a word called as stream, right? We can specify the groundwater. We can specify a word called as springs, not stream. Spring is nothing but discharge of groundwater is called spring. So either the groundwater can be added or the spring can be added into the stream bed. This is called as base flow, right? The base flow, again repeating, basically very simple. The groundwater is being added into the stream bed. Stream as in river, bed as in floor of the stream, right? So if I have a river, right, if this is the river, the groundwater seeps, the groundwater rises above, the groundwater rises above and seeps into the stream bed gradually, right? So it will be influenced by multiple factors including geology of the region, it should be porous, topography of the terrain, climatic conditions, vegetation and hydrogeology, also called as low flow or fair weather flow. It's purely from the preliminary point of view, right? Benefits of studying this, you can apply it from the mains. If you understand what is the source of water to the river, if only the source of water is considered, the source of water is only surface water, only precipitation, because the rivers that we have discussed is not the Himalayan rivers. The rivers that we have discussed includes the peninsular rivers, So glacier will not be a major source. It has to be only precipitation, right? Rainfall plays a major role in providing the water. Now if you do know, there is one more source of water which provides, and the quantity of water that comes in, you will be able to have a clear understanding of the velocity of water, quantity of water that is going to flow. Based upon this, you can use that to understand maintaining the stream flow and water levels in the rivers during dry period when precipitation is not there. Second, management of ecological conservation and hydrological modeling. We can also discuss, we can also have an understanding of flood and droughts, the extreme weather related impacts on the river. Moving on to the third topic, which is blood minerals. See, this has been in news repeatedly over the time. Recently, because of the Premier of Democratic Republic of Congo mentioned, made statements saying that if you are using a mobile phone, if you are using an electronic device, the blood of Congolians have been present in it. That is because large amount of mineral resources mined from Africa has been mined in a very unsustainable manner, one. Number two, based upon human rights violations by child labours, and that is being termed by the word blood minerals. Minerals mined in areas of armed conflict, often used to fund these conflicts, will be called as blood minerals, and they are associated with human rights abuse, including forced labour, child soldiers and violence against civilians. One of the good movie to have an understanding, if you have a time and if you have been preparing for the next mains, if you want to take a break, you can look into a movie called Blood Diamond, which will speak about how the blood minerals have been coming from particular regions, how the armed conflict is doing mining of illegal mining of the diamond, and the money is used to fund again the conflict, goes in a vicious cycle. Will be a very clear, and it's a wonderful movie to watch as well. So there will be a group of mineral called as, moving back into the subject, there is a group of mineral called as 3TG minerals. 3TG minerals. 3T stands for tantalum, tin and tungsten. G stands for gold. 3TG minerals, 3T, tantalum, tin and tungsten, and G stands for gold, maybe a preliminary point of view. Moving to the next topic, which is Katatumba lightning. See, Katatumba is a river. We would have studied this in world map reading already, about its location and its source, origin and all those things. So if you have not watched it, look into the world map reading of Vajiram Ravi, Recitals in-Depth, May month, right? And Katatumba river, as we do know, as we have already discussed, is in Venezuela, right? It has a phenomena where lightning is extremely high in the regions. So it is also even called as lightning capital of the world. So the number of lightning that takes place on an average is enormous. It's a maximum in any part of the world. So we call it as lightning capital, right? How does it happen? Just above Venezuela, you will be able to see Gulf of Venezuela, and this part of the regions you will have Caribbean Sea, right? And then this regions, the straight lines I am trying to draw with triangles will have Andes mountains. All this we discussed during the times of your world map. So you do have Caribbean Sea and you do have Andes mountains, right? Keeping that in mind, before that, happens at the mouth of Katatumba river near Lake Maracaibo. Its frequency and duration, it goes up to 160 nights in a year with an average of 28 lightning strikes per minute at its maximum. So it's called as the lightning capital of the world. So it's very simple. What happens by the earlier explanation is, we do have Caribbean Sea, we do have Lake Maracaibo, one of the important lakes of South America. Warm and moist wind will be blowing from the Caribbean into the Lake Maracaibo, right? So one side, let's assume this is Caribbean and this is Andes. My left hand is Caribbean and the right hand is Andes. Let me put variations to altitude, right? Warm moist wind comes from the Caribbean into the regions. Cold air descends from the Caribbean regions, descends from the Andes regions. Warm moist air from the Caribbean and cold dense air descends from the Andes mountains. Both meet. So because of two different contrasting air mass, second different temperatures, the interaction takes place. This interaction results in cumulonimbus clouds. You do know the large clouds usually associated with cyclone or monsoon, thunderstorms, heavy downpour and thunder takes place, lightning takes place. So we have a warm moist air from the Caribbean, cold air sinks from the Andes, both interact, two contrasting air mass, warm moist air cools down. Because of intense cooling, cumulonimbus clouds will be formed and there is a high amount of lightning, right? Going back, just an explanation of what we have discussed till now, right? Warm moist air from the Caribbean Sea is pushed towards Andes, where it collides with cooled or cooler air descending from the peaks, and warm air cools down, condenses, cumulonimbus clouds will be formed. This large, huge size cumulonimbus clouds are formed. Interaction between the powerful winds, variation in the temperature. One we spoke as warm, another we spoke of as cold. So we will have warm air, moist air, we will have cold air sinking down. Both interact, cumulonimbus clouds are formed. This will produce, these clouds soar up to the heights exceeding 50 km and static electricity, because of which there is a high amount of lightning takes place. This high lightning takes place near the mouths of Lake Maracaibo in the Katatumba river regions. So it's called as a lightning capital of the world. Moving on to the next topic, Indian Ocean dipole. See, as the word indicates, this takes place in Indian Ocean region, takes place over Indian Ocean regions. We use the word dipole. I'm just splitting the word into two. Two simpler part, extremes. So there is a possibility of two extremes will be present in the Indian Ocean, right? Either it can be warm and this region can be cold, or vice versa. This region can be cold and this region can be warm. So two possibilities will be there. What are the two possibilities? Western part of Indian Ocean being warmer than the normal and eastern part of Indian Ocean being colder than the normal. See, do not use the word Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, which is a common mistake people speak. We are not speaking about Arabian Sea or Bay of Bengal. We are speaking about western part of Indian Ocean and eastern part of Indian Ocean, to be precise, geographically more correct, right? And there is another way, western part of Indian Ocean, right, can be colder than the normal and eastern part of Indian Ocean can be warmer than the normal. So two possibilities. We are going to call it by the words positive phase and negative phase. Positive phase is western Indian Ocean is warmer than normal and eastern Indian Ocean is colder than normal. Negative phase is western Indian Ocean is colder than normal, eastern Indian Ocean is warmer than normal. So if I have a positive phase, amount of rainfall over India during southwest monsoon will be high. For an example, just to connect it with respect to it, assume that the southwest monsoon winds blow over the region. While it's been blowing over the regions, if the region is warmer, much more amount of temperature, which means warm water will be at the surface, more evaporation, more water vapor, more absorption, the India will receive high rainfall. So during southwest monsoon, if I have positive phase, India will receive high rainfall. What if this region is colder? Ulta will take place. So when Ulta takes place, this region will receive less rainfall. During southwest monsoon, if negative phase exists, less rainfall will take place over Indian conditions. keeping that in mind, if El Nino takes place, right? Like last year where we had a high amount of El Nino, right? And amount of rainfall has been lesser than the normal. Large parts of the country had less water in their reservoirs and crisis of water took place in pockets of the land, right? Assume that whenever El Nino takes place, we do know whenever El Nino takes place, it affects the world monsoon, it affects world climatic conditions to a many number of countries, and Indian monsoon is also affected. But it is not always true when El Nino takes place, Indian monsoon will be affected. There can be chances of El Nino here and still Indian monsoon would have been normal. I repeat again, there can be a chances of El Nino here and Indian monsoon would have been normal. How is that possible? If during El Nino, if we add positive phase of Indian Ocean dipole, the negative impacts of El Nino can be neutralized by the presence of positive phase of Indian Ocean dipole. So whenever positive phase is there, we will have more rainfall. El Nino will, let's assume in a very simplistic manner, El Nino is going to pull you down, whereas whatever the impact that has pulled you down by the El Nino will be raised back to the normal state by the positive phase of IOD. Sir, I have a question. What if El Nino occurs and negative phase of IOD occurs? Your rainfall because of El Nino will be low and because of negative IOD it will be further reduced. It will be further low with respect to the factors, right? And hope it's been clear. The reason why it has been in news is we have been studying about the IOD. That's because positive Indian Ocean dipole or Indian Nino is set to re-emerge in the second consecutive year in the later half of 2024. This will be the first time the event is taking place for the consecutive year since 1960. That's why it has been in news, right? Moving to the next topic, which is nitrogen dioxide pollution, right? This has been in news because the gas and propane stoves, which is used in the indoor, can also provide you pollutions of nitrogen dioxide. That's why it has been in news. See, before we go into it, regarding pollution, there are classes, there are bases for classification. One of the bases for classification divides the pollutant into primary pollutant and secondary pollutant. Primary pollutant means if the pollutant is released from the source. If I burn a wood, the wood is going to release some gas components, some materials, right? Some amount of elements. If the source, the wood burning is the source, and the gas moving across is the pollutant, right? Carbon monoxide goes on, carbon dioxide goes out. If the source gives the pollutant straight, right, we call it as primary pollutant. Are we clear? If the wood burning gives carbon dioxide, primary pollutant. If the wood burning gives some component, number of some components, and in the atmosphere they interact with each other and the interaction creates another component. Are we clear? The component was not released by the source. The component was released, the components released by the source interact with one another and they produce another source. For example, source is releasing A, source is releasing B. A and B are called primary pollutants. This A and B react in the atmosphere and on reaction of A and B gives you C. C is a secondary pollutant. I hope it's been clear what is primary and what is secondary pollutant, right? Nitrogen dioxide is not directly released into the air, which means NO2 is a source of secondary pollutant. It is reddish brown, pungent, acidic gas that is corrosive and strongly oxidizing. Nitrogen dioxide forms when nitrogen oxide or other nitrous oxides react with other chemicals in the atmosphere or in the air to form nitrogen dioxide. This is what I have been emphasizing, that nitrogen dioxide is not directly released from the source. Nitrogen oxides or other nitrogen oxides will be released. They release with chemical, they react with chemical to form nitrogen dioxide in the atmosphere or in the air, which will be called as secondary pollutant, right? One. The sources of nitrogen dioxides will include: one, burning of fossil fuels. You can have any fossil fuel starting from coal, oil, natural gas, any wood materials that is being burnt. Industrial process like welding, metal refining, all this will release the sources of N2O. And what will be the impacts? We have, when nitrogen dioxide is available, which is a secondary pollutant, if it mixes with sulfur oxides, right, the nitrogen oxides and sulfur oxides will give you acid rain. So acid rain is also an example of secondary pollutant, right? So combine with other air pollutants to form acid rain, it has its impact. Smog formation, smog is not directly released. Smoke plus fog will give you smog. So nitrogen dioxide contributes to formation of smog. All this will have an health impact. If you are in Delhi months from now, when the winter starts and the smog level increases, you do know how the visibility is being affected, how respiratory problem comes, how people suffer from smaller amount of respiratory disorders to higher amount of respiratory disorders. So all health impacts we see on a day-to-day basis, right, during the times of intense winter in Delhi. And initiatives and measures. So we do have WHO, World Health Organizations, which puts N2O and tracks N2O by the global standards. In India, we do have National Air Quality Index, which tracks it. Central Pollution Control Board, air quality standards is given for National Ambient Air Quality Standards for 12 notified parameters. Nitrogen dioxide is one of the 12 parameters. So these are the ways we do. This you can use it for mains part of answers. Moving on to the next topic, which is mammoth. We are not speaking about the biodiversity here, we are not speaking about the mammoth fossils, where mammoth, before going into mammoth, see, in terms of climate change issues, we speak about something called as mitigation and adaptation largely, right? When we say mitigation, mitigation is to reduce the greenhouse gases. So to reduce greenhouse gases, there are ways towards it. One way is not to release the greenhouse gas, right? For example, if you are moving from the fossil fueled any of your vehicles to power production to industrial process to renewable energy without burning any of the fossil fuels, amount of greenhouse gases is going to be less. That's an idea of mitigation, one. So today we are trying to change. Transition has been happening. But in the last 150 years to 170 years, we have already emitted greenhouse gases that's been there in the atmosphere, which has to be removed to solve the problems, because you can stop all your emissions. Let's assume hypothetically tomorrow morning all the greenhouse gas emissions has been stopped. It's come to zero. That doesn't mean the impacts of climate change will also come to zero. There has been reports, recent reports that said in the next 4 to 5 years, we will breach 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we breach 1.5 degrees Celsius in next 4 to 5 years, earlier IPCC 6th assessment report said we will reach that in 2035, right? But now, because thankfully human anthropogenic emissions, so we have been witnessing something around 2028 to 29. If 1.5 degrees Celsius has been breached, you and me will see tremendous amounts of weather disasters to come. There are reports which says huge floods will happen in India, huge droughts will happen in India, all this. So we have to remove the greenhouse gases from atmosphere as well. So now comes the next state, which speaks about removal of greenhouse gases from atmosphere. So this will come under a particular topic called as geoengineering to reduce the impacts of climate change. The earlier geoengineering concepts were CCD, which means not coffee day, carbon capture, CCD. I'm not able to remember what D stands for. Carbon capture, right? So what we will do for the CCD is we will permanently capture the carbon dioxide emissions or greenhouse gas emissions. We use the word carbon dioxide for a general term, right? We will permanently capture the carbon dioxide emissions and remove it from the industrial process and permanently store away from atmosphere. So you are going to permanently capture the carbon dioxide and remove it and permanently store away from the atmosphere. The words are much more important, permanently store. So it is never going to into the atmosphere. That's the idea. One, permanently capture, right? Permanently store. But this has couple of challenges. What are the challenges with respect to CCD, carbon capture? Is it required a storage space, which means the geology of the terrain has to support you. Number two, where the carbon dioxide gas is converted into liquid. For this to be done, you require plenty of one, electricity, plenty of water, through which you will convert the gas into liquid. Again, the electricity is being produced from fossil fuels. Because you have to treat at cryo temperature at minus 170 degrees Celsius, minus 190 degrees Celsius, plenty of water is there. That's the second challenge. The third most important challenge is this carbon capture can be done only when concentrated source of CO2 is available. What do you mean by concentrated? High flow, high density, concentrated CO2 has to be there. This can be available only in industrial chimneys or industrial process. So CCD, carbon capture, was made only available in the industrial process. So before the industry emits the carbon, that can be captured and that can be taken out. For an example, right? Assume that if this is the industry and I do have the chimneys here, this can be a device which can be fitted here that can capture the carbon dioxide without reaching the atmosphere, and then it has to be transported, where you do convert the process of gas to liquid. Assume this is the surface of the soil and you do have geological terrain, for an example, basalt like rock surfaces where the pores are not available. So you take this particular, just a second, you take this particular gas to liquid, carbon dioxide as liquid material is being taken and this has been stored here below the surface of the soil. So this process was done earlier. But what's the challenge? As we mentioned, it can be done only at the industrial process. This raises a question, what about the carbon in the atmosphere? What about the carbon that is released for the last 170 years? So we came up with other ways, which is direct air capture facility, right? So this was brought from September 21st, right, September 2021. The Climeworks is the company which works on the carbon dioxide removal capacity, right? And Orca is the first DAC plant which has been made in September 2021, and they can capture 4,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year. The second direct air capture unit of Climework company, which is Mammoth, which has been recently brought in 2024, it can capture 36,000 tons, right? So it can be 9 times more capture can be made by the second unit. Hope you are comfortable with respect to what was the prior and what is now, right? And Mammoth, world largest facility designed to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. CCDs remove the carbon dioxide from the industrial process where concentrated flow is available, any industry. Whereas DAC can remove it from the atmosphere. This is a second commercial direct air capture facility. Both are located in Iceland. Orca is the first commercial direct capture facility located in Iceland. So direct capture facility removes the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. What does it do? It's a very simple process, something like your smoke towers. It will absorb the air from the atmosphere. So you draw in air and chemically extract captured carbon and turn them into stone. And beneath the earth surface, So it will be put below the Earth's surface. So same process, you have to keep it in the Earth's surface permanently away from the atmosphere. Sir, you said you require energy. Yes, we are doing it in Iceland because it has high amount of geothermal energy. So the energy is again not produced from fossil fuels, rather renewable sources. So the energy requirement is also being taken care of. The captured carbon dioxide is then mixed with water and injected deep underground into basalt formations. It can be any formation which does not have porosity, so that that particular material, either in any of the form, liquid or gas, does not reach the atmosphere. That's the idea. Basalt rock formations where it mineralizes and permanently transform into stone within 2 years of time. Right? And as we discussed this part, Climax is the company, Orca is the first unit, commercial unit of direct air capture, Mammoth is the second one. Moving concerns. The concerns include, again with respect to the factors, what if it deviates from the idea of mitigation of present emissions. See, there is a group of or a school of thought which says that because of all these technologies you brought in, you create an opinion in people's mind saying that you can emit, we will reduce it. That's the idea that will be brought because there is a technology that is brought in, right? And what we have seen with respect to the earlier work is 36,000 tons of carbon dioxide will be 36,000 tons of carbon dioxide, and this one is 4. So let's assume 40,000 tons of carbon dioxide is going to be removed per year. That 40,000 tons is nothing compared to billions of tons that carbon dioxide is emitted every year. We are emitting billions of tons of carbon dioxide. We are capturing thousands of tons of carbon dioxide. These are improportionate, right? Values are completely unrelated. So though the technology is very promising, what you have been capturing now is very, very negligible compared to the amount of emissions. Capture is negligible compared to emissions, right? So these are the two concerns associated with, but the technology is very promising. Hope the issues gets resolved with more such technologies. Moving to the next topic, which is Oleander flask. You would have seen this Oleander flask in day-to-day life, which is now became much more commercialized, which is much more ornamental. People keep it in their houses. So temple, it's been in news because temples in Kerala has banned the Oleander flowers happening from the offering to the deity. That is because it has suspected for poisoning death on consuming of the Oleander leaves. So moving into the biodiversity part of Oleander. Oleander is also called as in common name with respect to Rosby. I believe that UPSC will not go into scientific names. Even if they go into scientific names, there will be a common name. Or Nerium is more commonly used in day-to-day life with respect to all the ornamental purposes. Nerium oleander. As it has been in Kerala, the issue came. We'll also look into the local name that has been seen in Kerala, Arali Kanaviram. The Arali is also the common name which is used in Tamil Nadu, where Tamil as a language is being spoken. Here, Malayalam. It's a poisonous plant, contains toxic components throughout its parts, including leaves, flowers, pods. It's fast growing, evergreen, small tree, native to Europe and Asia. All these words in that line sounds possible for preliminary point of view, if it has to be asked. I'm not saying it will be for sure will be asked, but these are the wordplay that the UPSC makes in the recent years. Fast growing, evergreen, small tree, native to Europe and Asia. Upon ingestion on the leaves, symptoms will include vomiting, nausea, bloody diarrhea and irregular art. It is tolerant, the plant is tolerant to heat, the plant is tolerant to drought, wind, air pollution, salt and poor soil. Which means if you are tolerant to heat, drought, poor soil, salinity, pollution, extreme amount of wind, then your survival rates are extremely high. You can move easily into large amount of area. The next topic will include soil nailing. This we again have seen during the times of your India map reading, where soil nailing has been done in Nilgiris. So what we do is like soil nailing is a geotechnological or geoengineering process what has been done is like this has been used in any construction activity, but it came in news because it is used in Nilgiris, right? What they have done is they have drilled and grout steel tendons into the soil so that it creates a composite mass similar to a gravity wall. So this has been done in the upslope regions wherever the road is being available, so that you will be able to make much more composite mass over the slopey terrain. Assume this is the road terrain and this is the mass that has been there. They have been making it with respect to it. So highways, railway cuttings, landslide repairs. See, there are two major landslide regions of India. Landslides can take any place, but two major landslide regions of India. One is Himalayas, another one is Western Ghats. Within Western Ghats, whenever there is a monsoon, the landslide is more frequent. Today, we have been seeing much more landslides in Himalayan regions. Once the monsoon starts, starting from Himachal to Arunachal or northeastern part, entire northeastern states, we see large amount of landslide. So this can be a one added point of solution you can write in your mains examination when a landslide based question occurs, right? Or it can be a preliminary point as well, right? So it can be used for landslide repair, tunnel portals, retaining walls for both temporary and permanent support, right? Just both from preliminary and also mains examples. See, over the entire things, whenever geography and environment comes, I will stress on how you can use it on prelims and how you use it on mains. And the next topic will be Norwester. Very simple topic. We have severe thunderstorms that takes place during the pre-monsoon season, just before monsoon from March to May in Bangladesh and eastern Indian states of Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Tripura, Assam and West Bengal. We do have local names, Kalbai, Sakis in India and Bordoi, Silas will be used in Assam. It's been in news because India's first research test bed to study Norwesters by Indian Meteorological Department, Indian Institute for Tropical Meteorology, Pune and National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecastings. They come up with first test bed to study Norwesters. Much more clarity and information will come, so we will be able to address any disasters if it happens because of Norwester. But more from the preliminary point of view, thunderstorms, pre-monsoon season in the Bangladesh and eastern part of India. The local names includes Kalbai Sakis and Bordoi Silas. Moving on to the next topic, World Wildlife Crime Report 2022. This was released by United Nations Office on Drug and Crime. Report 2024 has also been released, right? Most affected species will include global illegal wildlife trade that happened between 2015 to 2021 is rhinoceros under the animal category and cedar under the plant category. Within the animals, we do have seen rhino horns, pangolin scales and elephant ivory. See, the reason behind large amount of illegal wildlife trade is unscientific information prevailing under the misguided opinions of medicinal values. People believe on mythological proofs, unscientific proofs that certain animal parts has scientific values. For an example, there is a Chinese mythology which believes, and I'm not speaking about China, I'm speaking about the mythology, or misconceived mythology or opinion beliefs, especially in China, South Asia, Southeast Asia, eastern part of Asia largely, and that is also being perpetuated to all other parts of the world in pockets. They believe some animal parts as medicinal values. We spoke about rhino horns. People believe the rhino horn as aphrodisiac property. When I say aphrodisiac property, it means it stimulates the sexual hormones of humans. So they believe tiger bones have aphrodisiac properties, rhino horns has aphrodisiac properties, some meats of animals like lion-tailed macaque or sea cucumbers as aphrodisiac properties, and they consume, right? Coming back to rhino horn is made up of a material called keratin. The keratin is the same material available in the nails. If the keratin material in rhino horn can give aphrodisiac property, nail biting, might no. It's mythological, it does not have any scientific proof. You would have seen Jackie Chan coming and speaking, giving small animated videos of to protect rhinos so that the people will not consume rhino horns. You would have seen earlier time periods where there was an advertisement given by Rohit Sharma, if I'm not wrong, about safeguarding rhinos for the rhino foundations. And pangolin is a mammal which has been a scaled mammal. The animal is a highly poached animal. That's a highly poached animal under Indian conditions, where this has been poached for the scales. Again, the mythological beliefs think that it has medicinal properties, so it has been highly poached. Elephant ivory, the tusk, once it has been attached with the body, we call it as a tusk. When it has been removed, we call it as ivory. That's been a status symbol for some, but that's a tooth for that particular animal which has been killed illegally for someone's status symbols, which is again a crime under Wildlife Protection Act, CITES, all these international conventions. Again from preliminary point of view. Moving on to the next, which is Chir pine. This came in news because of forest fire in Uttarakhand. If you take Uttarakhand into considerations, 16.36% of forest in Uttarakhand is made up of Chir pine. Chir pine is the scientific name is Pinus roxburghi. And Chir pine, if you look into it, the bark of Chir pine it cannot catch, it does not catch fire. It does not catch fire easily, but the leaves, as in the needles of Chir pine, leaves is not the word that we use. For your understanding, I use the word leaves, which is needles. The needles catch fire easily. So it becomes a major source for forest fire in Uttarakhand, and 16% of Uttarakhand forest is Chir pine, right? In 2000 and couple of years before, we also came up with Chir pine power project. The idea of Chir pine power project is to collect the needles from the Chir pine forest and use it for producing energy, electricity sources. So Uttarakhand Renewable Energy Authority has come up with an idea to collect the Chir pine needles and use it for production of energy, as in electricity. Renewable energy idea has been put across with respect to it. Coming back again to Chir pine, it grows in Western Himalayas, very specifically Western Himalayas, between the altitudes of 1000 to 2000 meters elevations. Flowers covers large part of Garhwal Himalayas and Kumaon Himalayas. Again from preliminary point of view with respect to the biodiversity. Moving on to the next topic, which is star metric. Before entering into the star metric, right, I hope we are comfortable with topics with terminologies like IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. They also come up with something called Red List, which speaks about the threat of a plant and animal from least concern to critically endangered. They categorize it. There is also international convention called Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD. Within the CBD, we do have GBF, Global Biodiversity Framework. The Global Biodiversity Framework came in 2021-22 time period, which gave 23 targets. The 23 targets has to be achieved by, let me write it down, Kunming, Montreal Biodiversity Framework, which gave 23 targets, action-oriented targets to be achieved by 2030. The idea of the biodiversity framework is to off and restore the global biodiversity that's been there, right? Keeping this in mind, that's background idea towards it, right? So the STAR metric, which means species threat abatement and restoration metric. See, the fund comes, without money you can't do abatement of threat or restoration of biodiversity. So there will be a fund flow, there is going to be a money. The money can come from governments, the money can come from international organization, the money can come from civil society, the money can come from business enterprises. So let's assume there is a source of money that is coming, and this source of money, $100 billion, is going to be utilized for achieving the 23 targets are reducing the biodiversity loss, reducing the threat to the biodiversity. But you have to have some metric to measure, no, how the money comes, how much amount of biodiversity loss is reduced, how much restoration is being made, how much abatement is being done, what is the success, what is the failure. So IUCN Red List has created a tool. That tool is star metric. The tool is to estimate potential reduction in species extinction, measures the contribution, financial contributions in reducing species extinction risk, right? So it can help governments, civil societies, cities, finance industries, investors, whoever wants to achieve it. It does in two kinds of contributions. One is threat abatement, number two is habitat restoration. So species threat abatement and restoration, star metric, right? The metric aligns international agreements such as Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. That's what we discussed as Convention on Biological Diversities, Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which has 23 targets. All the targets to be achieved or should be achieved by 2030, and SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, again by 2030. Moving to the next topic, which is extreme weather events in Dubai. See, before we go on to it, the background information is a desert. Desert is not defined by the temperature. Desert is defined by the amount of precipitation. If the amount of precipitation is less than 25 centimeter, we call it as desert. And we do know the Arabian Peninsula will fall under the desertic environment. And in Arabian Peninsula, Dubai like regions falls under the desertic environment. You do receive less than 25 centimeter of rainfall or 250 millimeter of rainfall in a year. What has happened in Dubai is over an year and a half worth rainfall, which means 1.5 years equal rainfall has taken place in one day. This we call it as erratic intense rainfall. Intensity of rainfall is increased. Always remember, the climate change has contributed towards intensity of rainfall. The intensity of rainfall, year-long rainfall, 1.5 year rainfall taking place in a day, which means it gets flooded. You will never have a drainage system to accommodate 1.5 years of rainfall taking place in one day. No city can have it. The heavy rainfall flooded the city, airport, everything. The reasons that are being quoted, possible reasons, is large anticyclonic conditions. Anticyclonic conditions as in high pressure systems, high pressure at the center surrounded by low pressure in the surroundings. Just a revision to your geography. Cloud seeding operations has been done by Dubai. Excessive dust in the regions, desert, so large amount of dust. So that can be hydroscopic, can provide hydroscopic nuclei. Once you provide hydroscopic nuclei, the formation of cloud and heavy density of rainfall can take place. Transition from El Nino to La Nino. These four can be the possible reasons that are listed for extreme weather events in Dubai. The next topic will be Funga campaign. See, this has been given by United Nations Biodiversity. They started saying that to use the word funga, fungi here stands for fungi, to incorporate fungi or funga alongside flora and fauna. Whenever we speak about wildlife, we always use the word wildlife includes flora, fauna. UN Biodiversity says, you say flora, fauna and funga. Why? Because if you have been not using this terminology, this moves out of it. And there is a huge amount of contribution that has been done by fungus in terms of ecosystems. So the objectives of the Funga campaign will be like increase the recognition of fungi's critical role in ecosystems, use the term funga to highlight the significance, advocate for the inclusion of fungi in legal conservation framework. So the next time when a Wildlife Protection Act or wildlife measures or a conservation measures happens, you will keep speaking about fungi's contributions. You will use the word funga and you will also make measures for fungus conservation and protection, right? So to go on, what is fungi? Fungi is eukaryotic. Again, one word dividing into two for our easy understanding. So when you say U stands for rich, true, good, however you want to write. In Greek, U stands for all these words. That is why eutrophication. U is real, true. Trophic there stands for, I will just, as I started, I will also use the word eutrophic. Trophic stands for nutrition. So you will be able to say rich in nutrition is eutrophication. Whereas here in this case, U is rich, true or good. Karyotic. Karyot stands for nucleus. So eukaryotic microorganism means the organism as nucleus. There is also one another organism you study in basic science which are called prokaryotic. The karyote again stands for nucleus. Pro is before. So before the nucleus that microorganisms emerged. So they will not have nucleus. Eukaryotic organism means they will have nucleus. Prokaryotic organism means they will not have nucleus. Instead of memorizing it, understand U means rich, karyotic means nucleus, true in nucleus. Pro means before the nucleus emerged. Simple. Apart from this, the characteristics of fungus, one, eukaryotic microorganisms, they can be unicellular or multicellular. Uni stands for single, multi stands for many, single cell or multi-cell. They are also heterotrophic. Just a few minutes before, we spoke about trophic means nutrition. Homo means same, hetero means different. So heterotrophic, you take nutrition from many sources, you don't produce. You take sources from many sources, let it be plant or animal, right? The most important, people, basic sciences might write this even if it comes in preliminaries. The catch is here. It does not belong, fungus does not belong to the Plantae kingdom or Animalae kingdom. In other words, it does not belongs to plant kingdoms or it does not belongs to animal kingdom in simpler words. It has its own kingdom in classification of biology, right? It belongs to their own biological kingdom found almost everywhere on the earth. This is from the preliminary point of fungus. And with respect to the importance, it plays an essential role as decomposes, symbiotic relationship, which means both live together and both can be benefited or one can be benefited, another is neutral, and acts as a pathogen. When you say pathogen, they cause diseases or they cause harm. When you say non-pathogenic fungus, they will not cause harm. An example of non-pathogenic fungus is mushroom. It's a mushroom, it's a fungus, but it does not cause any harm. The one which you consume. I'm not speaking about the poisonous mushrooms, right? Pathogen means it causes harm. So it decomposes organic matter. Lichens, I think 3 or 4 times in the history you will be able to see the preliminary question about lichens would have been asked, right? Which is algae plus fungi. Mycorrhizae 2014 preliminary question, if I am not wrong, which spoke about again a non-pathogenic fungus. When you say non-pathogen, it does not cause any harm. It is an association of fungus plus plant roots. Fungus is used in food production. We do know mushrooms, and it has antibiotic productions. The finest example is penicillin. Harmful effects, all the diseases, let it be plants, animals, or allergic reactions and material damages. Moving on to the next topic is about the Darjeeling Zoo. The Darjeeling Zoo, which is also called as Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park, which is located in Darjeeling, got an international recognition from the World Association of Zoos and Aquarium. This is because of one particular reason. They have been doing a captive breeding, or you can use the word conservation breeding of snow leopards, and this is the largest conservation breeding of snow leopard in the world. So they have been given the world international recognition, right? The map will show you the snow leopard population in the Himalayan regions. The shaded portion shows the habitat of snow leopards in Himalayas, which has been present in 6 Himalayan regions, 4 states and 2 union territories: Uttarakhand, Himachal, Sikkim, Arunachal, 4 states, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, 2 union territories. These are the places where snow leopard is present. And the recent census of snow leopard has also told the population where Ladakh has the maximum population of snow leopard, followed by Uttarakhand, followed by Himachal, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and the least number is present in Jammu and Kashmir. Some might make a mistake in the least number because Ladakh has the maximum but Jammu and Kashmir has the minimal number, right? Moving on to the snow leopard and its continuation. So, we do have established in 1985, first and the only program of its kind, one, breeding over 77 snow leopard population since its start, and as the largest population of snow leopard in captivity. When you say in captivity, captivity means human environment. You are having in a human environment is called as captivity, right? Like a zoological park or conservation breeding center, specifically established, not in a natural habitat. Captivity is human environment, not natural environment. So, regarding the census, whatever the images that we have seen, it was conducted by Wildlife Institute of India in 6 mountainous regions, 718 leopards in 4 states and 2 union territories. With respect to the world, it's again, we will make it much more geographical. Keep India in mind and speak about surrounding nations. We will have Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, surrounding regions of the 6 states, Nepal, Bhutan, China. So, I think one coverage has been done. Slightly above China, we do have Mongolia, Russia, Central Asian countries. So, looking here, we will go by the term, however we put across, right. So, we do have India. We do have India, which Nepal adjoining to Himachal and Uttarakhand, Bhutan, much more easier. Above regions Tibet, China and Mongolia, Russia, Pakistan and Afghanistan. The other 4 countries comes in Central Asian countries, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, KKUT, right. So, surrounding India, we can speak about Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, China, Mongolia, Russia, 4 Central Asian countries, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, both the KK countries comes, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. These are the 12 snow leopard countries in the world and 6 Himalayan regions as snow leopard. Moving on to the next topic, which is Global Species Action Plan. This is an action plan, Global Species Action Plan, and comes up with something called as SKILL, SKILLS, skills. It's a platform. So, within this action plans, skill platform has been created. Skill stands for species, knowledge, information, learning, leverage and sharing platform. Species, knowledge, species conservation, knowledge, information, learning and leverage and sharing platform. So, this platform is an online resource. What you will do is like you will provide information about species conservation, whatever the interventions, whatever the measures, whatever the conservation programs you have done, specific actions and sub-actions that is being taken for each GBF target. Few minutes before we spoke about the GBF, Global Biodiversity Target. Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework has given 23 targets, that is your GBF target, right, and relevant technical tools. So, it aims to bridge the gap between policymaker and conservationist. Policymakers will be at the top level, conservationists will be at the field level. The gap exists between the two. So, this will create an online platform. So, it provides information for all. This is being launched by IUCN at the 4th meeting of Convention on Biological Diversity. So, 2 places it can be used. What a skills platform can be asked in preliminary interview, or if the global biodiversity framework or biodiversity conservation targets has been asked in mains, you will be able to speak about skills, you will be able to speak about all the other provisions that we discussed either in this discussion video or any other discussed video by Vajiram Ravi, Recitals in Depth. Thank you. We will see you in the next month current affairs.